A long investigation has finally concluded that children who are born in poverty in the United States have very little opportunities to complete their university studies or to find a well-paid job. And surprisingly, this situation is a lot more severe for Afro-Americans. Let's take a look at the following story brought to us by Alice Olstein.
When Tony Lewis Jr. was growing up on this street in the heart of Washington, D.C., it was a very different place.
You would pass drug deals, crap games, prostitutes.
Growing up, Tony said he had no adults to look up to who had regular jobs. His father began serving a life prison sentence for importing and selling cocaine when he was just 9 years old, and his mother was hospitalized for mental illness.
In impoverished communities where your value is kind of based on how tough you are and not how smart you are, and this is rampant and it's normal. These are the norms and the culture in these communities. So it definitely leads to, those cycles being started and continued.
Tony managed to break the cycle by graduating college and getting a professional job with the city government. But his friends weren't so lucky. Many of them who grew up on this street were jailed or violently killed. Most children growing up in poor neighborhoods like this one have almost no chance of upward mobility. That's according to a new study based on more than 25 years of research. Out of the more than 800 people included in the study, only 33 managed to go from a low-income childhood to a high-income adulthood. Professor Carl Alexander and his team in Baltimore tracked hundreds of children from the first grade until they were nearly 30 years old and found deep-rooted inequalities in what is supposed to be the great equalizer, public education.
45% of children of more advantaged family background had baccalaureate degrees or above. Only 4% of children from disadvantaged families had a baccalaureate degree. So not many disadvantaged children were achieving success that way through school, even though that's what we encourage them to do and that's what we tell them they ought to be doing. So that was really quite shocking, a tenfold difference in college completion across social lines.
American families with money, who are generally white, use their resources to give their children advantages in school and usually live in neighborhoods where there is less stress and violence to distract them from their education. The study also found that race and class disparities continue after graduation. In the workplace, white men had a much easier time getting a job, even though they had the highest rates of drug and alcohol use and arrests and the lowest rates of college acceptance.
Many young people at all family income levels do these, get in trouble one way or another. But most young people outgrow it. In fact, it's a stage of life thing. For some young people, they don't outgrow it in the sense of consequences. And what we see, it's quite clear, is that African Americans suffer a much greater employment penalty when they get in trouble in these various ways than do whites.
This data contradicts claims often made by U.S. leaders, including President Obama, about equal opportunity.
No matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, how you were raised, who you love, if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to live up to your responsibilities, you can make it here in America.
I believe in the American dream. I think what's not factored in, though, is that the pursuit of it is different for different folks. And yes, you can pull yourself up by the bootstraps in this country. I still believe that. But in these communities, you have to navigate through so much to even reach your boots.
To fulfill the promise of the American dream, researchers and activists say more programs are needed to help young children in poor communities keep up in school with their more advantaged peers, and more efforts to help everyone, including people with criminal records, find dignified employment. Alice Olstein for Telesur in Washington.